It's my winter wonderland. The backgrounds of postcards. It's amazing. This is my favorite national park.
So far.
So far. I'm Yvonne.
And I'm Jeremy. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. The past few weeks you've been seeing kind of like this recap video of some of our travels. So in today's video we're going to be talking about Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. And they are jointly administered, they're right next to each other, and they're in that central eastern part of California. So it's about 4 hours away from San Francisco or 4 hours away from Los Angeles.
So going to Sequoia Kings Canyon, it was one of the best experiences ever for me because going there in the springtime, I just did not know what I was expecting. I thought it would just be like normal trees and greenery and nature and all that good stuff. But then when we went, it was like a winter wonderland.
They actually don't open up Kings Canyon Scenic Byway until the 4th Friday, I believe, of April. And so it's actually throughout November into all the winter months until the very end of April. That is when they actually open up the scenic byway so that you can drive down there with your car. But in April, the weather is good in the foothills, but as you climb in elevation to where some of these sequoia trees are, you get over 6,000 feet. It's actually a lot cooler. And actually during the few days that we were there, so we were there on the very last week of April, we actually called in every day to hear about the road conditions. And the first few days we were there, chains were still required. We didn't want to go through the hassle of buying chains or renting chains along the road. So we kept calling in, hoping that at some point in our trip, that on the Sequoia side, that the chains would not be required. And sure enough, on our second to last day there, we called in and chains were not required. So we were really excited.
So since the scenic byway was basically closed all season, when we drove in, there was nobody there. We were the only ones there, and we were just able to enjoy the views and nature all to ourselves. And I really enjoyed just making my tracks and grabbing snow whenever I could and throwing them at Jeremy. That was my most favorite part of the trip.
So on the Sequoia side of the park, there's the giant forest area, and that's where the largest tree, so not the tallest tree, but the largest tree in the world, the General Sherman, was.
So there it is, the largest tree on Earth. I don't know, I feel like it's not that big. It was actually pretty big. The biggest tree because trunk keeps growing wider and wider every year. So that makes the largest tree. Oh, it really didn't look that big from afar. Well, just because that day we already saw a lot of very, very large trees. I mean, the whole time you're in the park, you're seeing a lot of very, very big trees, giant trees.
So people were actually using the panoramic photo function on their phone to actually try to get themselves and the whole tree in there, which I thought was
it was really smart because, I mean, when you think of a panorama, it's like from left to right or right to left. But then what people did was they went from down to up. That was so smart. I never thought to use the pano function like that before.
In that same general area, that giant forest and lodgepole area is also, Moro Rock, Crescent Meadow, these places that, are more accessible in the summer. Yvonne enjoyed going there in the summertime. What did you like about it?
I mean, a lot of things were open, but it being open also meant that there were a lot of crowds. Because there are more people, you do have to take the shuttle. So there are just more restricted areas that you can visit because you can't take your car up. I would say that it is a different experience going in the summertime, but if you do want to visit all the different parts of the park, go either really, really early in the morning or go during the off-peak seasons. I visited Moro Rock, which is a very popular place where most people try to go to when they go to Sequoia and Kings Canyon. There are steps going on top of this rock, but after a few hundred steps going up, you do get a really amazing view. actually take a walk to the Hanging Rock Trail. When we arrived, we basically saw Moro Rock from a distance and also a rock just hanging off on the side of a mountain. I have no idea how that's possible because it was pretty slanted.
So this is the Hanging Rock, and this, on the side of it, is Moro Rock, the one we just hiked to the top of. So you can actually see tiny people up there on the top. I wonder if they're looking at us. Probably not.
Us being the only ones there, I got to take some pretty fun, also some pretty ridiculous photos, which I really enjoyed.
She majors in Google, so here we go.
So I highly recommend walking to the Hanging Rock once you're at Moro Rock.
So a short hike that you can do, and it's not super short, it's about 4.5 miles round trip, is the Tokopah Falls hike.
Actually, before you go on the trail, you do have to be careful with storing your food. So we did park at a campsite, so there are bins, bear-proof bins that you can store your food in. We were not really sure if we wanted to go on this hike because it was kind of long. We were scared we might get snowed out. What if we don't make it back on time? So we kind of had all these concerns and hesitations, but eventually we just decided to go anyway. I mean, we're there already, so might as well.
So it is snowing outside, and I'm not really sure if we should be going on this hike. I hope we don't get snowed out on the trail. Yvonne has convinced me, so we'll see what happens.
Every part of the trail you get to see a different view, and it just gets better and better.
Wow, do you see it?
Oh my god. Whoa.
So that ended up being a lot longer than we thought. I'm so glad that we went. There was snow melting off the trees and it would hit you once in a while. But the sun peeked out a few times too. So we really just enjoyed it. I think the trail was pretty gentle, but you're at elevation. That's not super high. You do kind of huff and puff on your way up there.
I really loved the hike. I'm so glad we went.
Yeah.
Like every now and then we could just stop and just look at nature and just take in the views all to ourselves and think about deep stuff while we're looking at it. But it's just us, you and nature uninterrupted. So I just loved it.
The very end of April, that is when they actually open up the scenic byway so that you can drive down there with your car. After you drive in, there will be a number of pullouts where you can stop and look at the views, look at the magnificent canyon. But once you get down into the canyon, into the valley itself, there are also a number of places where you can pull out and there are some interesting things to see.
How does it feel to be overlooking the canyon?
I feel scared because I don't want to fall inside. I'm on top of the world. Except there are still mountains above me. I really like waterfalls, so I especially like the Kings Canyon side of the park. So the first waterfall that we saw was the Grizzly Falls. That one is literally right off the highway. So you park your car there and then you walk maybe a few minutes, a little bit uphill, and there you go. As soon as you get off the car, you can just hear the waterfall and you just follow the sound and then there you are. Yeah, it was just a very accessible waterfall, good for kids, good for families. Being able to dip my feet in the water was just the most refreshing feeling ever. But you do have to be kind of careful because we did see a snake. So the second fall that we went to was the Roaring River Falls. That one is a little longer hike, but I enjoyed it. It's basically paved the whole time. Very chill, very gentle walk up there. Once you reach the waterfall, there are just big rocks that you can climb to get a closer view, but if you don't want to, you can just admire it from afar, which is not a bad view at all.
I think the thing about the Roaring River Falls, yeah, it's a little bit more of a walk, but because there are so many different rocks, and yeah, if you're willing to climb over rocks a little bit, there are a lot of different vantage points from which you can look at the falls. Another stop on the Scenic Byway is you can stop at Zumwalt Meadows, and there's a nice little walk.
Loved it because it's just the perfect combination of that granite hill, and there are these like trees kind of spread like under it, and then in front of it is just a meadow. So it's like it's just what you imagine a meadow to be.
But these are definitely some of the highlights. You'll definitely have enough to do for a few days, even if you don't want to do some of those longer hikes. And you can take kids and you can take older people as well with you to some of these places, because there's just a lot to see within reach of your car. Alright, so we're gonna end today's video here. So let us know in the comments if you enjoyed this style of video, or if this was interesting to you. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again next week.